This really raises, in my mind, something that Neil Ferguson said to me in one of these conversations once, that the greatest threat of all to the West's freedom lay in the West's loathing and rejection of its own past, its ignorance of its own history. Contrast that with, or we'll keep that in mind, and remember that Victor Davis Hanson has spoken incredibly powerfully about the lessons of World War II, which were that, as he saw it, what should have been kept to a series of ugly, but nonetheless border skirmishes grew into the horror of the Second World War, because Germany and then Japan believed that the West lacked the will to fight, lacked the capacity to fight. You know, the lesson being that if you don't understand a bully, if you don't understand your history, which is replete with bullies and pathological murderers, they're everywhere. The 20th century is not so long ago. If we forget those lessons, we truly are in danger of repeating them. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I know I couldn't anyway, Rebecca, but what worries me so much is that we're so into self-loathing, and that arises, it's made possible because we don't know our history. We place everything that we actually really deep down value at risk.
Well, this is why, though I am somebody who's very interested in national security policy and international relations, I keep I can't get away from the domestic conversation that is happening in the United States, and because it's a very serious and consequential argument that the American people are having with one another about who we are. Is the United States today worth defending? And the answer, that there's folks on the far right of the political spectrum and the far left of the political spectrum are in agreement, but for different reasons, that the answer is no. And and those on the right say our problems are so great domestically that we have to turn inward, and these problems abroad are just too great. And besides, our governing class is just so confused and wrong-headed that we can't trust them to get it right anyway. And then, of course, the left sort of has this long-running blame America. Everything's America's fault. Everything's America's fault. We're the ones that have wielded power irresponsibly, et cetera. And so, it's never our adversaries' fault for their aggression. It's something that the United States did. So both sides kind of suffer from this, but for different reasons. And when you take that and you combine it with failing to remember the lessons of history, that there's always going to be a bully, an adversary who's willing to, or who wants to take power from you, wants to take political leverage from you, wants to have greater influence in the world, but they're going to do it on their terms based on what they believe is right, which are very contrary to the West's. So you take those two things and you have a terrible, toxic, tragic scenario playing out before you. Um, but I believe that the United States is still American preeminence is still worth fighting for, and there still is a good number of people kind of that have not fallen on either side who still believe that. The challenge is to get enough people to make the right arguments and get into positions of power that can have the cultural confidence and the surety and the moral clarity to know that you you we the the Russians and the Chinese are both happy to step in if the United States steps away, both in Europe and Asia, and to collaborate together to do that, and to undermine the US led order with our friends, of course, in the NATO alliance and elsewhere. So it's an astute observation. I think Victor Davis Hanson is exactly right, and that's why it's that those of us who would like to just be talking about national security and international relations, I think, can't afford not to pay attention to the domestic debate, because it is directly tied to how the United States is going to be able to prevail, I think, through this turmoil we're going through now. And I think this is just, Ukraine's one culminating moment, but there'll be more. There are others flashpoints, I think, in the world that are going to pop up too after or even during the Ukraine crisis.
Thank you for watching this episode. If you value vital conversations like this one, please like, share, subscribe, and join the conversation.